Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Palmer. Tonight we're speaking with Aaron Rashba. Aaron is Development Director for Seacology. Seacology is an environmental nonprofit focused on guarding island habitats and cultures around the world.
Thanks, Tom. Great to be here.
Aaron, thank you. So tell me about Seacology.
Well, Seacology is an international conservation organization which, just as you said, focuses on islands, preserving island species, habitats, and cultures. The reason why we focus on islands is that islands contain an incredible number of unique species found nowhere else, and many of those species are threatened.
I saw on your website today that a large percentage of the extinctions that have happened over the last 100 years have happened around islands.
That's right. In fact, since records were kept going back about 400 years, the vast majority of plant and animal species have occurred on islands. And when you look at birds, it's 88% of birds are native to islands. It's 86% of reptiles. And so islands, due to their isolation, allow so many species to thrive that might be very big, very small, in the case of birds, flightless, and you get these incredible species that unfortunately are in danger of extinction. So our mission is to make sure that no further extinctions occur and help island people through our unique model.
You have an interesting origin story. Tell me how Seacology came to be.
Sure. Well, Seacology was founded through the work of our founder and now the chair of our board. His name is Dr. Paul Cox, and he is a renowned ethnobotanist who in the 1980s was working in Samoa, in a remote region in the far western part of the island of Savai'i, in a town called Falealupo. Studying the beneficial effects of the plants in the rainforest there. And he was looking to find a cure for cancer, which had claimed the life of his mother. He worked with local healers in the community of Falealupo and studied their methods for working with the plants found in the rainforest. And he found several compounds that showed quite a bit of promise, particularly against HIV/AIDS. In fact, one of those compounds, prostratin, is about to be tested by the AIDS Research Alliance. So one day in, I believe, 1988, Paul saw these loggers show up and they have orders to log the rainforest where he was working, this beautiful, pristine 30,000 acre tract of rainforest. And he said, what's going on? The villagers are crying, and explained that the government had ordered the community to come up with $85,000 or their teachers would be relocated and all the students in the village would lose access to education. And having no other source of income, the per capita income in this area is about $100 per year. The villagers sold the rights to their rainforest to this logging company, and it was an international logging company that offered the exact amount that the government was demanding. And Paul said, "Stop! If I can raise the money, will you sign an agreement that will protect this rainforest?" And the village agreed. Paul then went and raised money from his friends, from business associates. He mortgaged his house to come up with the $85,000 cash immediately. And the Falealupo Rainforest School was constructed, and the rainforest was saved. This is all chronicled in the book Nafanua, which describes this incredible story. Nafanua is a Samoan god, and the community members called Paul that after a god who protected the forest and was also from the outside. Fantastic.
Now, did he later win the Goldman Environmental Prize for that?
Yes, he did. He and the chief Fuiono Senio won the prize together in 1997. And it's interesting, Falealupo was our first project, and from that, there have been a few efforts in Falealupo and this subsequent efforts This beautiful rainforest canopy was built in 2001, which today is generating ecotourism revenues that total more than the government was asking for from selling the land.
So your first employee was the man who had directed the Goldman Environmental Prize for 18 years.
That's right. That's Dwayne Silverstein, who is still our executive director.
I see.
He started in 1999 and has really overseen a lot of growth of the organization. But before then, for many years, Seacology was founded in 1991 and was an all-volunteer effort. And really what Paul and his supporters looked at is that this is a unique approach to conservation and an idea that really has legs, and they ran with it. The concept of creating a conservation agreement of forest or of a marine area in exchange for meeting a key community need, which could be a school or a community center or a medical clinic, could really work in saving these incredible island ecosystems which are unparalleled in biodiversity.
So the payoff for investment is also unparalleled.
It really is. Today,
$24,000 average project?
That's right. Yeah, factoring in the administrative costs, it's a little higher, but still just about $30,000. And for that, we save an area of, as I said, unparalleled biodiversity that might otherwise have been developed. And as well, there's this incredible dual benefit to the community where the villagers receive more access to education, more economic opportunity, access to healthcare. Our projects have truly run the gamut. And we now have 219 conservation projects all around the world, but all of them are on islands, and they pretty much concentrate on the tropical belts straddling the equator, just in that they're home to so many endangered species.
You have a very low budget. Are you still running a lot of volunteer labor here stateside?
We run on a lot of volunteer labor in the communities where we worked, in remote island communities.
Is most of the labor volunteer?
Yes, it is. When we build, a community center or a school, if for skilled labor such as carpentry and plumbing, we will typically hire a local contractor, but almost all of the work is done by members of the local community. I got the wonderful opportunity to see this firsthand in going to Fiji this past January, where we had a opening ceremony to dedicate a community center which was built in exchange for a marine protected area. And it was incredible to meet the members of this community called Tuco, almost all of whom had worked on the project, to meet the local volunteer who was the coordinator of the project. And he had overseen the community center to full construction and the conservation agreement. And what it does is create local buy-in. I really think that's the secret to why our conservation projects work. We don't just dictate what we're going to do for the community or even the conservation project itself. We approach leaders of a local community and ask what they need, and then talk to them about the conservation part of the agreement. And we take care to make sure that their needs will be provided for. For example, when we set up a marine protected area, we make sure that there is an accessible area for them to fish, which they may depend on.
You have a very impressive scientific board of advisors. Jared Diamond, E.O. Wilson. It's an amazing group.
Sylvia Earle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're a wonderful group and an important sounding board for our projects. Each one of our projects is reviewed by our scientific advisory board, and the leader of the scientific advisory board is Paul Cox himself.
I see.
So.
And your board of directors is unpaid and seems very well wired into the financial community. Interesting and very impressive board.
That's right. We do have a low budget, as you say, and the majority of our support comes from individuals. 58% of our support comes from individuals, 42% from institutions, which are chiefly foundations. And even of the foundations who support us, they are primarily small to mid-sized family foundations, so essentially connected to individuals. Our donors are people who care about conservation, who know how special islands are, and many of them have recreational interests such as scuba diving, where they can see firsthand the effects of environmental devastation and know what losing habitat, losing species would mean to them in future generations.
So what does the future hold? What are your short-term goals? You have a lot of projects going on. Do you want more?
Absolutely. You know, we see our model as very successful, and we have no shortage of project proposals coming our way. This year, we will likely fund 15 new projects. Our board just met in January and funded some really exciting projects. We have in Madagascar what I consider a traditional Seacology project, which is preserving a pristine 5,000-acre tract of rainforest, home to some of the last remaining silky Sifaka lemurs. There's only about 2,000 left. And that's done in exchange for building 3 primary school classrooms and a footbridge across a river that prevented a lot of children from getting to those classrooms. So that is a very traditional Seacology project where there is an exchange. In every project we do, there is a win-win, a dual benefit for the environment and the community, but that's a traditional trade-off. In the Americas, we have done some projects that are a little less traditional, primarily because there are fewer areas that are indigenously controlled and as remote as where we started in Samoa. And you know, some of the projects in the South Pacific and in Southeast Asia are indigenously controlled, and it's the families, the tribal families who own the land in the marine area. In the Americas, we work a little bit more with governments, with other NGOs in setting up our projects, but they're equally effective. In Panama, one of the new projects our board approved was alternative cooking technology for the families on Escudo de Veraguas Island in Panama. It's on the Caribbean coast, and the island is surrounded by reef and mangrove forests. And mangrove forests are incredibly important nurseries for fish, as well as a buffer for, in the case of storms and rising sea levels. And what the community had found is that they were needing to cut down mangrove trees for charcoal, for cooking. And so we funded alternative cooking technologies, solar ovens, and highly efficient burners so that families wouldn't need to cut down mangroves for their cooking.
You're doing a lot with ecotourism just lately. Is that a new project or something you've begun recently?
Ecotourism in our own Seacology expeditions, or in the what our projects fund?
Bringing your own donors to see the results of their donations.
Okay, yes, those are our Seacology expeditions, and those have been going on for quite some time. We know that it's vitally important to bring our supporters to where the work is being done. So we do offer a few expeditions per year. They are really fun trips that will combine activities like diving and snorkeling and trekking with at least one visit to a Seacology project. And what we like to do is time it with something like an opening ceremony that I was so fortunate to experience in Fiji, where the whole community comes out, and it's a chance for members of the expedition to meet people in the community. We, as much as possible, a guiding principle of Seacology is respect for the local culture and people, and fostering that interaction is something we really want to do. And seeing a project will make a donor a lifelong supporter, and so it's something we know is vitally important.
So you're protecting not just the species, but the cultures.
Absolutely, and that's another unique quality of islands. It not only, due to its isolation, is home to these unique species, but home to some cultural practices found nowhere else.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So are you looking for more volunteers around the world to help? More coordinators?
We do have a team of 20 field representatives who coordinate our projects, and they are nationals of the countries where we have projects in. For example, we have a field representative in Indonesia and in the Philippines. So we do occasionally have openings for those coordinators, but they are nationals, as are our volunteer project coordinators for each of the communities where we're working. So it wouldn't necessarily be an opportunity here stateside, but we do have opportunities to visit our projects. We'll have a trip to Mexico in next year, in February, to the Philippines in April, to Fiji in June. So some really exciting travel opportunities. And of course, there's the opportunity to support Seacology, and it is an incredibly leveraged investment in that we are able to do an incredible amount with funding in the projects we support, and every project has the dual benefit. It's not only helping the environment, but helping people in the community enrich their own lives.
There's a fellow on here, Bud McKenzie, on the show, and he has an organization where he helps children in Afghanistan build schools, and made the very good point that if a donor wants to leverage their investment, they should invest in a nonprofit that utilizes a lot of volunteer labor.
Yes.
And a very lean organization.
I couldn't agree more, and that really is a success factor for Seacology. We are a lean, efficient organization. We have 7 full-time staff members, our part-time field representatives around the world, and that's it.
Your whole budget, 1.3 million?
It was about 1.4 million last year, but we operate very efficiently, and we have. You can imagine what it would cost to even do a study to build a school or a medical clinic here in the States, and we're able to do the whole thing for $20,000, $25,000, $30,000.
That's amazing. What's your biggest project right now?
Our biggest project in terms of land area, we have a 100,000 acre marine protected area in Indonesia, in an area called Raja Ampat, which is part of the Coral Triangle, and between Indonesia and Philippines and Papua New Guinea. It's where some of the healthiest coral reefs are. But those areas are threatened by many factors. One of the most deadly is cyanide or blast fishing, which is a fishing practice in desperation where explosives are lit in a coral reef and all the fish come up to the surface dead along with all the coral and reef dying. And so we recently established a 100,000 acre marine protected area in exchange for a new community center, which will be used for virtually every meeting in this community, along with kindergarten taking place there. We are partnered with the Mosul Eco Resort and Wild Aid to monitor this area. They will be working with the villagers to monitor the area. And I was delighted to hear from our Indonesia field representative that she recently dove in the area, and the Mosul Eco Resort had established a protected area adjacent to that 4 years ago, and she reported that the area was teeming with life, and there were certain species that she thought were gone. They hadn't been seen in an Indonesian reef in 10 years, including the black-tipped sharks, Napoleon wrasse, and big grouper. And so we were just so happy to see the reef responding.
Incredible.
Yeah. In terms of budget, some of our largest projects are around $45,000 to $50,000, and that project in Madagascar that I mentioned would be about that, just due to the number of schools that we'll be constructing.
So if people are liking what they hear and they're interested in donating to Seacology, how can they proceed?
Please visit www.seacology.org, and you can find a link there to donate online, as well as read about any one of our projects. Our website is pretty detailed and thorough, and you'll find a description of all of our projects there. You can also find a link to sign up for our e-newsletter and join us on Facebook and Twitter, where we're very active in putting out stories not only about Seacology, but about islands in general. I also wanted to mention an event that is taking place here in Berkeley on Thursday, October 11th of this year, and that is our Seacology Prize ceremony. You mentioned the Goldman Prize, and
you give your own prize.
We have our own prize.
Always to an indigenous leader.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Yes. And so we do one award per year, underwritten by one of our board members. It's a prize of $10,000 to the work of somebody who's doing extraordinary things in conservation. And this is the one time when we have a project come stateside. It will be held at the David Brower Center here in Berkeley, where it has been before. And last year's winner was just incredible. His name was Erman Mailandi from Indonesia. He'd done some great work preserving the rainforests in West Java. And our board is about to meet in 2 weeks, and they will be looking through applications for nominations for the Seacology Prize winner this year, and will no doubt choose someone incredible. So I would encourage anyone to come to that.
That's a good event and a good chance to just get acquainted with what you're doing and some of the people.
Yes, and I would ask that they get in touch with me. My contact information can be found on our website, and you can reach me at aaron@seacology.org.
Great, great. So other projects for the future? Well, what's the near future hold for you? Are you starting any new projects?
There will be the 15 new ones this year, and 9 that were recently approved by the board. In addition to the projects in Madagascar and in Panama, we have a project to preserving 741 acres that's home to the Royal Bengal tiger in an area of India called the Subderbans, and it is where the Ganges River goes into the sea. And so there's all these islands, sort of a shifting landscape, a river delta, and we are building a natural history museum there in exchange for preserving this area of mangrove forest. We have new projects in Samoa, in Tonga, in Belize, in the Bahamas, where a Seacology expedition was just this past week. A number of new exciting projects. And in the future, we want to do more of these, and we can only do it with support from the community. So I do ask that anybody who has been impressed by what I've said tonight or what Seacology is doing to please join us as a supporter. But we're doing about 15 new projects a year now. We would love to do 50 new projects a year or more.
Do you monitor logging around the world and encroachment to rainforests so you can step in? How do you find out when you need to step in?
We find out about project needs through our field representatives, who are our eyes and ears on the ground. And so by having 20 of them in regions around the world, and these people it's a diverse group of field representatives, but they're all interested in and acutely aware of conservation issues, and they will be the ones who might learn about a threat to an area. But that is something that we monitor at the home office too, and pay attention to where there might be a threat and the need for a new Seacology project.
Do those people also monitor whether the local indigenous people are in fact keeping their agreements in regard to development? Has that ever come up?
It does come up, and we address that mainly from the outset in that in order to do any Seacology project, we need to have a monitoring and enforcement plan that is written by the local project volunteer in conjunction with the field representative. So we want that to come from the local community, and we want to see a plan of how the area will be protected. In our projects for marine protected areas, for example, the one I saw in Fiji, it was demarcated. So that is something that will assist villagers with in setting up signs for the boundary where our agreement is taking place. But our field representatives will visit all active projects at least once a year. So there are check-ins that take place. But ultimately, we believe that the conservation needs to be done by the local community itself. And that is part of the local buy-in that Seacology tries to create in all of its projects. And part of a Seacology project is an education process where we want to talk to first community leaders, village community leaders, about the value of conservation, and eventually have that message reach the entire community. It was amazing, Tom, to see in Fiji, in Tuko village, people talk about the need to conserve. And I was so heartened to hear from a local fisherman that he had seen increased fish counts and larger fish outside of the protected area. So that's someone who who knows how important the protected area is. And there's community enforcement that goes on where the neighbors are really watching each other.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like your group is doing incredible work. Thanks for coming here and telling us about it. I wish you all the best.
Thanks so much, Tom.
All right. Thank you, Aaron.
Great to talk with you.
Good night.
Good night.
And thank you for joining us. Good night.